to get to the beginning. Okay, so this is all about advancing alphabetics, and we're going to spend a couple hours here together, and it'll go by pretty quickly. Um, so I have two problems. I'm presenting two problems on this slide here. So you're reviewing a passage with new adult learners, and you
Oh,
realize if you learn, what's
real
up?
quickly, Maura, it's not in presenter mode. It's still like in the preview. I don't know if which screen
Okay.
you shared.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I probably
That's
should.
okay.
Yeah. Hold on. I have two monitors. That's why it's doing that. Okay. Let's see if this is right. Thanks. Okay. Okay. Do you see the slide where it says you're reviewing a passage?
Yes,
Okay.
perfect.
All right. Sorry about that. So two problems here. So the first problem is you're reviewing a passage with new adult learners and you realize a few learners struggle with long words. You wish you had a fast way to customize to their needs. So that's problem one. Problem two is you also wish your program had a mechanism to observe and support you as you progress in teaching the components of reading. So you've got two problems here. Put in chat. We're just going to try to keep this engaging and using chat a lot today. But go ahead and put in chat some possible solutions to either problem one or problem two. And you might have a different, your role may be different. Maybe you're not a teacher, maybe you're a program manager, maybe you're a lead instructor, maybe you're a tutor. So you may have more problem with the first, or you may have more problem here with the second. So go ahead and just put in chat, what are some ideas? How can you help a learner who is struggling with long words? Or how can you support your teachers? Or if you are a teacher, how do you feel like you could be supported better in teaching the components of reading? So for those of you who've just come in, we're looking at two different scenarios here, two different problems that you may have encountered. So this is problem one and this is problem two.
More,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. My name is showing up as your name, Erin, because you sent me the list. That's not messing you up on presenting, is it?
actually, we can probably change your name.
I
Um,
just matter to me. I ring us because you sent me the link. I just letting you know
yeah.
that in case you see it.
So that's William Newcomb. He's one of my teachers. Thank you for being here, Bo.
Okay, thank you. I don't know why that happened, but anyway.
It's because it was my link.
Okay. As long as it don't bother you, it doesn't bother me. Okay.
Doesn't bother me.
Okay.
So there's some ideas coming through. I see a lot of working with syllables, talking about prefixes or suffixes, teaching vocabulary, teaching syllables with clapping, text to audio. So you have some strategies. What about this one? You wish your program had a mechanism to observe and support you or teachers as they progress in teaching the components of reading. What do you have in place there to help your teachers get better with the components of reading? So I'm going to keep going here. Um, I'm going to be able to help you with both those problems today. So in our small amount of time together, I hope to make a big impact in these ways to give you some confidence where you have some uncertainty with evidence-based reading instruction, to bring some clarity where there's some confusion in determining phonics gaps that a lot of our students have. They have gaps there. And then, really try to unlock some true potential you have to make a dent in the adult ed universe. So those are my goals today. I hope to make an impact in those three ways. So I'm Maura De Silva. I'm the lead teacher for regions 13 and 14, and some of my teachers are here. Thank you for being here, you guys. I'm an ABE GED instructor for at least 15 years. I've worked with Elizabeth and others and Hillary and Jeffrey on some different projects at Valric. And Elizabeth and I were recently working on science of reading modules. I was a director of a community-based literacy organization for 10 years. I have a master's in reading from UVA, and I'm a creative business owner as well. So let's keep going. We got a lot to learn today, but again, I want to make this simple for you. Let's preview some vocabulary. So phonemic awareness is the sounds. You're really thinking about the sounds of the spoken language. So it's the ability to detect those units within words. So this hedgehog here is saying k, at, and this hedgehog is listening and say, oh, k, at. That makes cat. So they're blending these sounds together. And there's other things that you do when you're teaching phonemic awareness. Maybe you're changing, take cat and change the k sound to f, the f sound. So what would that be? So you're changing individual phonemes around. There's a rhyming has to do with that. But if a learner doesn't have this, they can't begin to decode words. And I'll explain what decoding words means as well. There's different types of phonics. You've probably heard about phonics. There's what's called synthetic phonics. So that's when learners are blending sounds together, individual sounds together. Like this example here, where you have what are called these Elkanon boxes, and a student is touching each of these little circles here as they're making these individual sounds and then blending them together. That's just one activity that can be done in synthetic phonics. Analytic phonics is also, it's also recognized as, synthetic phonics is recognized as being effective. Analytic phonics is also recognized as being effective. One is not better than the other. Your student they will start out with synthetic phonics and then move into analytic phonics. I don't want to get too technical here, but when we're going to dive deeper into both these types of phonics, but what does your student need, right? You have to think, well, what at this point does the student need? Analytic phonics looks more like this. When you are sorting words, you're analyzing, you're seeing that there's a pattern here, this ET pattern. And there's just a letter being changed at the beginning here. So you're sorting, you're analyzing, your students are sorting and analyzing. Words Their Way is a program that I was trained in at UVA, and that's an example of analytic phonics, although there are some components of synthetic phonics, but it's mostly an analytical way of learning phonics. And it can be applied to new words, that's the nice thing, and also they're comparing and they're really analyzing, and I think it's a really great way to learn phonics. However, synthetic phonics is also very useful. Another term here is systematic phonics. So I have question marks here because we're going to talk about that. Okay, we're going to talk all about what systematic phonics is about. All right, let's get back to some problem. I have another problem, and that's a problem that many programs in the state have, and that is that you have a high percentage of NRS level 2 and 3 students. And this is a snapshot of our program last week. Buffy Allgood is my program manager, and she sent me this. So these are participants. This is those with 12 or more hours. And you can see there's a large number at NRS level 2, 3, and a lot right at level 2. So what does that mean if, TABE, and we do TABE testing, so level 2 is coming up here, third, fourth, fifth, and this is the recent chart from TABE. So we have a lot of students right here, and I teach reading level 1 and level 2, and other teachers teach that too, and some of those teachers are here today that are just teaching the level 1 and level 2. Now level 3 is about 6th, 7th, NRS level 3 here, okay, and they need some attention. We have a lot there, so they also need some attention in evidence-based reading instruction. So is your data at your organization similar? And it probably is. All right, some pain points. some pain points with most programs in Virginia is inconsistent reading outcomes, the challenge of aligning instruction with the science of reading, because there's a big push for that now, which is excellent. And it can be a challenge. And then also lack of actionable feedback to help teachers grow. So there's three pain points that I'd like to address today. So okay, science of reading. So what does that mean? Okay, so what is the science of reading? This is in a nutshell. Here we have a graphic. If you want to learn more about the science of reading, Elizabeth, you've put on lots of webinars. You have lots of information about science of reading that goes more into depth. But just as a recap or a nutshell, if you're not familiar with science of reading, it's their essential components. So we have phonemic awareness and phonics, and that's your alphabetics. So when we say the word alphabetics, we're not talking about just learning the alphabet, which is part of it, but alphabetics is a combination of phonemic awareness and phonics. Then you have fluency, which is accuracy, speed, and expression. So when somebody is reading fluently, they have a combination of those things. They're accurately reading, they have a good speed, not speed readers, but enough speed so they can understand. It's not word by word, and expression. And then vocabulary, of course, and then all of that, the end goal is to have comprehension. So comprehension is not going to happen if students don't have all of these things at some point being taught to them. You're not going to be fluent. Can you imagine? You're not going to be a fluent reader if you can't read the words. So we have to be teaching our students how to read the words. Okay, so what steps can we take to eliminate these pain points? So put in chat, what steps can we take about inconsistent reading outcomes? So what can we do about inconsistent reading outcomes? All right, choral reading, that helps with fluency. What else? What are some other strategies that you're aware of? Use reading outcomes to help to group students. That's good too. What else? All right, let's keep going. If you're thinking of things, go ahead and put it in there. How about the challenge of aligning instruction with the science of reading? What are some steps you can take with that? Okay, so let's do lack of actionable feedback to help teachers grow. Anything you can think of to do that, do there. And these are challenging questions, and maybe everybody's, except Emily, is being a little bit quiet because you're like, well, tell us more. What can we do? So let me keep going here. So what I have started doing with our program is using the evidence-based reading instruction observation tool. That could be a solution to these issues. So let's see what Sydney says. I teach adults and wish our program used phonic-based readers that introduce the common sounds to the uncommon letter sound correspondences. Okay, so that's interesting. I'm going to show you what you can do even if you don't have any program that has been purchased. So today I'm going to show you how you can use AI to fill in what you are missing as far as, purchase materials. Okay, so this evidence-based reading observation tool, and it is a link right here. On the second page, you're going to do a breakout room shortly here, but on the second page, you're going to see these, on this observation tool, you're going to see alphabetics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. But I'd like you to just sort of skim through the whole thing, but spend some time on that second page and talk to each other. Where do you feel confident? What is confusing or unknown to you? You're only going to have 5 minutes. So Elizabeth is going to create breakout rooms. So you're going to be in groups of 3 or 4. So whoever we'll just use the alphabet. Whoever has the first letter of the alphabet as the first letter of their first name, whoever comes first in the alphabet, you'll kind of be the lead of the conversation to get the conversation going. And we're not going to discuss when you come back. We are going to put things in chat, but we don't have a whole lot of time to discuss today. So let's go ahead and do breakout rooms. The link is going to be put in chat, and there it is in chat. So before you go to your breakout room, click on that so you have it open on your browser, and then you're going to join your breakout room. So somebody will be able to share it in your group. Focus on page 2. All right, so 5 minutes. Elizabeth, we're ready?
Okay, I opened up the rooms, so hopefully, yep, I see people join.
Oh. Okay, so everybody is back now, it looks like. So just go ahead and put in chat, where do you feel confident? Where do you feel confident with this observation tool? If you were going to be observed, what would you do well? Okay, so keep the chat coming. Where do you feel confident? Okay, that's a very good point about when you have a variety of abilities levels in one room. Um, that I would like to address. I have an assessment that I'm going to show you that you can use. So we're going to look at that. All right, so fluency, vocabulary, you're confident with that, and decoding words, confident with that. All right, so what is confusing? What is unknown? Let's say, oh, there's somebody else. Sydney says, I'm confident about teaching phonics. Okay, but you have students for such a short window. Um, okay. All right, so let's keep going, and hopefully some of these things will be answered. We're gonna really focus on the alphabetics now. Fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, there's resources for a lot of these things here are in a folder that we're gonna share with you. So for example, marked phrase boundaries, quadrant chart, yes, no, why. If you didn't know what those are, there's a lot of information in a resource folder we're gonna share with you. But today, we are gonna focus on this part here, so the alphabetics. So there's more to alphabetics than just these 3 things, but you're gonna understand what these are after today. So a note on observations, and then we're going to wrap up the observation part of today is use it for improvement. I'm a lead instructor, and observations are used to help coach your teachers, okay? So nobody's perfect. So use that for improvement. And you can do like we do here in most programs, it's lead observing a teacher, but we're also starting a peer-to-peer observation. Well, we do that as part of our training, but also this semester we're doing more peer-to-peer, more of that peer-to-peer observation. You could do a teacher to lead. I've had teachers observe me. I'm a reading specialist, so that can help. They're seeing how I do things. Or if you have a reading specialist in your program, you could do a teacher to reading specialist. So there's all kinds of ways that you can do observations. And it's to identify strengths, areas for growth, share strategies, and remember, above all else, progress, not perfection. All right, so let's dive into syllable types. So syllabification, okay? There's 6 syllable types with a leftovers category here. So we're going to go through this slowly so that you understand the different syllable types. So first syllable type is closed. Closed is a consonant vowel consonant. The vowel is closed between consonants. So this is your definition. There's a single vowel letter ending in one or more consonants. So it is a short vowel sound. So in dapple, what is your consonant vowel consonant? It is dap, right? That's your closed syllable, and that A goes A, which is short, okay? Hostile, hostile. So here, hostel, hostel. Here you have two closed syllables. You have one here, H-O-S, and you have one here, T-E-L. Okay, so now in chat, put what is your closed syllable in beverage? Which is your closed syllable? Just put it in chat. If we were live, I'd be asking you to call it all out. Right, it's bev, B-E-V. All right, so that's closed syllables. And you can have one syllable words that are closed syllables. And of course, you would start there if a student couldn't read a one syllable word, you would start with one syllable words. All right, now we're moving to vowel consonant E, that magic E or silent E, VCE. So which one here has that magic E or that silent E? Compete. Which has the silent E? Pete, right. That E makes that a long, that's a marker to make that a long E sound. All right, how about despite? Which is your VCE? Vowel consonant E. Pite, right. Okay, so now let's move to open syllables. Okay, so an open syllable ends with a long vowel sound and it's spelled with a single vowel letter. It's not closed like this with a consonant. It's open, and here is your open syllable. It's that vowel is open. It's not sandwiched in between consonants. So it has a long vowel sound. So this is program. So there's your open syllable. How about in table? What is your open syllable? Right, table. All right, recent. What is your open syllable? Exactly. All right, now we're going to go into vowel teams, including diphthongs, and I'll explain what diphthongs are. All right, so there's a lot of stuff that happened when England was invaded by the French. They brought a lot of vowels with them. So we have a lot of stuff going on with vowel teams. Okay, so diphthongs, I'll give you a definition here in a few slides, but it is a sort of a gliding sound, like the oi or ow. Okay, it's not a single sound. There's a glide between the vowel sounds. But then there's vowel teams, and in here you'll see some vowel teams as well. But in awful, what do you think your vowel team is? Awful. Okay, correct. It is the aw, okay? Full is just that's a closed syllable, but here is your vowel team. That W is, part of the situation here. Even though that's a consonant, normally it is helping with this vowel sound here. All right, trainer, what is your vowel team here? All right, that AI. So that syllable train has the vowel team in it. All right, congeal. Right, your EA is your vowel team, and spoilage. Right, your diphthong, that oi there. Okay. All right, now we get into R controlled. R controlled vowels are difficult to learn because many of them sound the same. Okay, so it's a syllable with or, R, or Okay, notice you've got three that sound like So there is some amount of memorization that needs to happen when you are learning to read, but R-controlled vowels are a necessary part of phonics. Okay, so injurious, what is your syllable that has that R-controlled vowel in it? That jur. Okay, consort, which is the syllable that has the R-controlled? Right, here it is, that sort has that R-controlled vowel. All right, charter. Okay, trick question, charter. Both, yeah, they're both R-controlled syllables. Okay, and going to the last syllable type here is your LE. All right, so dribble. Okay, so that bull is your consonant LE syllable. Beagle. Okay, you see the GLE. Little. There's the TLE. All right. And then there's leftovers. So there's odd and schwa syllables. Schwa, if you don't know that, it's the It's just like And we have that sound a lot in the English language, the sound. So in damn udge. You don't say damn age, right? We say damn udge. It's this sound. All right, active. There's that sound, okay? It's not active. You'd think that would be a, like a long I, but it's not active. It's actually if, right? Okay, but it's not a long I. So that's an oddball. All right, and then nation, all right, right? That Tion, we know because we're good readers that makes a sh sound, that shun sound. Okay, so those are your basic syllable types, and of course there's oddballs in the English language, but it is useful to teach to this. Okay, students start out when they're learning to read with phonemic awareness, and then they learn to spell one syllable words, and then they can manipulate one syllables and put them into like two syllable words and then three syllable words. So you want to think about it as this is like one of the goals is to get students to be able to read multiple syllables if they can't, but you need to start with one syllable words. All right, just some more vocabulary, some review here. A diphthong, that is just the craziest spelling to me. If you can, I have a very hard time remembering that. But anyway, diphthong, it is a dynamic glide between two sounds. For example, boil and cow. So say boil, you hear that oi, all right? And then cow. So your mouth, when you say boil, oi, if you see how your mouth is behaving, it's doing two things. And same with cow. Ow. Your mouth does two things. So there's a glide between two sounds. All right, a consonant blend is when you have two distinct sounds that come together, okay, like blah as in blue. You can hear the B, you can hear the L, or st and stop. All right, there's ending blends also, like sand. You hear the N and the D, jump. Okay, three-letter blends, those are more advanced. They're also known as complex consonant clusters, STR, street. That can be hard to discriminate those three sounds. So that's a more advanced skill. All right, so those are blends. And then a digraph is when a single sound is made from two vowels, like boat. You just hear that O, okay? Or from two consonants. You can have a consonant digraph too, like the CH, that ch sound, okay? So just to reiterate this idea of a digraph, you've got consonant digraphs like ch, th, sh, right? That makes a single sound, okay? These make a single sound. And then also you have your vowel digraphs like EA, like in seat, which is making that long E sound. All right, we are going to take a 30-second reflection. Just write in your notebook, what are some takeaways? Something that resonated, something you would like to try, questions you have? Okay, just a little breathing time. By the way, we are going to make all of this available. So there's the QR code for the resource folder. All right, let's go back and look at another diagram about the components of reading. So this one is an oldie but a goodie, but you have your print-based components and you have your meaning-based components. Okay, and under print-based components, you have alphabetics and fluency, all about the print, and here all about the meaning, vocabulary, and comprehension. So we are focusing in right here on word analysis. So we have decoding, which is when you have to slow down and look at each letter and blend those letters together. So you really are like decoding the English language. All right, word recognition, that's when you don't have to decode anymore and you know these words. So if you looked at the words on this page, you would probably know the word. You wouldn't have to decode it. You know the word recognition. You might look at it, very quickly, but you do know that that is the word recognition and you don't have to slow down when you read it. And then structural analysis. This is also something that you do when you are reading if you come across a word that is longer and you don't know it. So for example, if you saw this word, maybe you couldn't read this word, but you were familiar with word parts. So you could see, well, that's trans and that's port and that's shun. So you could figure out that that's transportation. Okay, so that's a structural analysis. So you're not reading it letter for letter. So you're analyzing it based on those word parts. Okay. Um, all right, I'm going to pull up a bunch of words, and I want you, the next slide is going to be a bunch of harder words, and I want you to read them to yourself and watch what you are doing. Are you decoding sometimes? Do you know the words automatically? Do you need to slow down and do some actual structural analysis or even slow down even more and look at the letters and do some decoding and put the letters in order? Okay, so are you ready? Let's look at this list of words. All right, go ahead and read these to yourself. Okay, so maybe that was enough time. So some of you maybe could read all these words automatically, you recognize the words, but maybe some of you had to slow down and you had to maybe even do some decoding, but you probably did a lot of structural analysis. And now the question is do you know what these words mean? So how is your vocabulary with this page? So you can see that teaching and reinforcing alphabetic skills, you have to be able to read the words and then you can work on your fluency. You can start to read them quicker, right? And then at the same time, you need to know what these words mean so that you can comprehend. So all of these things have to be working together. And a lot of our adult learners, they don't even have the basic phonemic awareness, which is like understanding how the written word works to be able to start to decode. So they're not solid there. Okay, and that will hinder their overall literacy and progress and and so forth. The workforce and all of that is not as they're not meeting their potential. Okay, so what are some objections to teaching alphabetics? What are some objections that you have come across or you personally have with teaching alphabetics? And remember, when we say alphabetics, we're talking about decoding, structural analysis, phonemic awareness, those things. So go ahead and put in chat, what are some objections that you have come across you think other people will have? What are some of your objections to teaching alphabetics? Okay, so maybe some of your students have some objections. Okay. So with that, you do have to explain, what you are doing and that you are helping them. And it may seem like first grade, but we need to do this so that we can fill in those gaps. And, I'm sorry that you weren't taught correctly when you were in school, but we need to go back and fill in these gaps so that we can get you up to speed here. What about teachers? As far as teaching, what are some objections? All right? Like, Maura, just tell us. What do you think? Oh, here we go. All right, so yeah, with Solid, yeah, you want to make sure you're teaching where your students need to be. And I'm going to show you how you can do that. Limited time. Yeah. And I'm not like an ELL expert, but I think a lot of this can apply. You do need to teach phonics to English language learners. Okay, so let's see. Some objections I guess at would be it's too complicated. I didn't learn phonics as a child. I don't have time. I don't have the resources. No one in our program is doing this, or I don't know how to start. And all of these can be alleviated, except for I can help you alleviate all of these with what I'm going to show you today. But the second one, if you didn't learn phonics as a child, that's going to be a problem because if you learned like through Dick and Jane, like my mother did, who my mother was dyslexic and it did not help her. She did not learn to read by reading a lot of Dick and Jane stories. Um, you may not be ready to teach phonics because you don't understand. Like if you didn't understand what I was talking about with short vowels and long vowels and things like that, you need to go back and study that some. Now, I do have some ideas. If you have Aztec in your program, the fundamentals of reading letters and sounds can be helpful in IXL, phonics, and phonemic awareness. You can even just use part of the free part of IXL and just search for phonics and phonemic awareness, and you can um, learn a lot just there. We use IXL and Aztec in our program. Um, Okay, so, but the other objections, it's too complicated. It doesn't have to be anymore. We have AI to help us. You don't have time. It doesn't have to take too much time. You don't have the resources. You can use AI. No one in our program is doing this, so you start. You be the one. And you don't know how to start. I'm going to show you how to start. Okay, so let's take some time here. I'm going to explain what you're looking at. Learners fall into one of 5 spelling stages. Okay, so we have emergent, letter name, within word pattern, and syllable juncture and derivational constancy. So we have these 5 spelling stages or orthographic stages. If you can determine their spelling stage, you can determine where they are with their phonics. Okay, so emergent, the ages, right? The typical ages are across here. So emergent, letter name, within word, syllable juncture, derivational constancy. Okay, so we're just going to pretend that's crossed out. We don't think in ages, we think in stages when we're working with adults. Stages, not ages. Stages, not ages. Okay, here's grades. That's just a guideline. You know, we really don't need that either. What we need to do is we need to diagnose. Okay, so looking across here, we're gonna say we had a student sample of a spelling word, okay, and the word was pan. We asked them to spell pan. So in the emergent stage, right, they're still drawing pictures. They can't really make letters yet. Maybe they can hear that N sound, but they are beginning to get the consonant, vowel, consonant correct at the letter name stage. All right, the word stem, okay, they maybe hear the S, they hear the M, but they don't hear that T there. They're not getting their short A, short E right in the letter name stage, but they are getting this right in the within word pattern stage. Bike, all right, bike, letter name. That's why it's called letter name. They hear the B-I-K, bike, right? So that's the way that they will be spelling is they're listening to the sounds of the letters, the names of the letters rather. Okay, within word pattern, they're not sure. They know it's a long I and they need to make it a long I, but they're not quite sure. They're confusing how to make that a long I. Okay. Chart. Okay. Chart. Hearing maybe there's a C in there, not sure, but R, I hear a T. Chart, yeah, there's an R in there. I'm not sure how to do the R controlled vowel. Okay, but then they're getting it right at the later stages. All right, dotted, dotted. Not sure exactly. Sounds like dotted. Even at syllable juncture, they're like, I don't know, do I double the T? I can't remember if I double it or not. So they're still learning those rules. Drizzle, drizzle, that DR definitely sounds like a JR, so that's a really good try there. Dra. Okay, they got the DR here. Drizzle, they're sounding it out. Here, they're not sure, is it EL or is it LE? Okay, so in this stage, and then they're getting it right at this stage. All right, criticize, nobody's getting it right. They're not even getting it right at derivational constancy. They weren't taught that criticize comes from critic. The base word is critic. How do you spell critic? It has a C at the end. So that would be critic, right, with the affix at the end or the suffix at the end, all right? So criticize, even though it changes the sound. All right, same with majority. It's major. That is your base of majority. So that would be an A. So that's the kind of thing that they're learning there in the derivational constancy stage. So I'd actually like you, if you're going to take notes today, one thing I would like you to take notes on, because we're gonna be talking about these stages: emergent, letter name within word pattern, syllable, juncture, and derivational constancy. So I'd like you to at least write those down. Um, if you do more research, you may find syllable juncture is known as, sometimes known as syllables and affixes. An affix is a prefix or a suffix. And derivational constancy is sometimes known as derivational relations. Okay. All right, so if you learn to determine what spelling stage your students are in and what concepts they need to work on, do you think you could teach them systematically? Yes or no? Yes or no? Well, I hope you said yes. This is something that I was, in my career, knowing about this developmental spelling analysis was really one of the best things that has ever happened to me. And I'm going to share with you this developmental spelling analysis. It will help you so much with your students. So and also Kathy Gansky wrote a book called Word Journeys. Um, and she has an analysis in there. We'll just call it DSA for short. And here's an example of that analysis. And we're going to look more in depth at the DSA. And there's a lot of resources here on this link there, lots of templates and good stuff in there. Okay, let's just talk a moment here. I promised that we'd go more into depth about systematic phonics. Okay, so it is proven to be effective. So what is systematic phonics anyway? So what does that mean to you? So please put in chat. I would like to see what you say. I don't think you can get this wrong, honestly, but what is systematic phonics? What do you think that that means? So step by step, what else? For those of you that have done phonics, you know phonics, what else is it about? Structured, step by step, a clear sequence, building upon phonemic awareness, right? Building upon that. You're building. I like that word, right? And it does dovetail with the spelling phases for sure. Right. And learning those patterns, like the consonant, vowel, consonant is usually a short vowel. All right. So you're all correct. It's hard to get this one wrong, but you see that word system there in systematic. Okay, so systematic, the phonics, the definition is it's a structured approach to teaching reading that focuses on the relationship between letters and sounds, not as it comes up or discoverable. And let me explain what this means. There are some programs, and they still exist, where students are given a lot of beautiful books and they're read stories and they are surrounded by print, and they are expected to learn how to read because the stories that they're given are interesting and there's lots of beautiful pictures and they kind of are expected to pick up the vibe, right? Or learn through osmosis, right? Learn how to read just by, having lots of books in their environment and given time to read. Well, It works for some kids, especially kids from higher economic status, but even those kids don't always learn that way. It does not work for everybody, and it's very much a not fair way to teach reading. Reading is not discoverable for everybody. You may have been somebody who just picked it up, um, but that is not fair to those who aren't able to just pick it up, who don't come from print-rich environments, whose families don't have, money for a tutor, things like that. So the key characteristics, um, direct instruction, right? You're explicit with the instruction. You teach that, that TH makes the th sound, as in think, right? It's sequenced, it's structured. You start simple, right? You progress from simple to complex patterns. For example, consonant, vowel, consonant words to blends to digraphs. So for example, moving from cat to jump to through, you wouldn't teach through right away. All right, so also you have writing and reading activities that incorporate learned phonics rules. You have passages with targeted phonics patterns. You have students write sentences using those words. Um, you do progress monitoring. You tailor the instruction based on the student needs. You use a diagnostic assessment to identify specific phonics gaps, and that's what this spelling assessment will do for you, and you provide targeted practice. All right, so here is a sort of general scope of a alphabetics program for those of you who are interested in kind of seeing, well, how do things progress? But I think you can kind of figure it out. You start out emergent, sense of story, concepts of print, like what is a word? There's space between words. The phonemic awareness heavy there, phonemic awareness here in your beginner readers, and then progressing from simpler to complex things. And then when they hit about a third grade, second grade reading level, they are still working on fluency and phonics, but they're doing more of learning from their reading. This is based on a chart. And when they get into this NRS level, then things are getting much more complicated. And this is based on this Florida Department of Education chart that has grades. So it's just basically this that I turned into NRS levels here. Let's see, let me go back here. Okay, so so like I said, at UVA, I learned about this program. I had a semester or two in Words Their Way, and it was really one of the most important and pivotal things that I've learned for my career as far as being a reading specialist. So it incorporates analytic phonics, and you are able to diagnose and then teach phonics using this one program. And there is some synthetic phonics blended in there as well. So let's practice an easy way to get started with your students in a system of phonics so you can start immediately. Okay, so this link here is a 5-page document. This is the front page. You know what? I haven't been showing my whole screen. Can you see that better?
Yeah, that's fine. You were showing the whole screen. It was just when you went to the
Oh,
Alphabetics program.
okay. Okay. Um, so this is like a locator. The first page is a locator or a screening tool, and it is divided into 5 words, 5 words, 5 words, 5 words. And if you look at these words, you can see, well, these are easier. They're getting into long vowel markers here. Even here, there's a long vowel marker. And then some of the vowel teams are controlled, some of these complex consonant clusters. Then you're getting into more syllables, and then you're getting into some base words, some prefixes and suffixes, some very interesting spellings. So this stage is letter name. This is within word pattern. This is syllable juncture, and this is derivational constancy. So what you do is you locate your student. And when you start to see them falling out, right? So they get through this, then they get in here and they only get like 2 right. You keep going for one more stage, but if they only got 2 right here, that's where they're falling out. You need to give them the within word pattern list of words and see what specifically are they falling out on. Okay, so this is the first page is screening, Once you screen them, then you go to that, you know, in the pages following, you'll see the letter name list, the within word list, the syllable juncture list, and the derivational constancy list. I have had students, I said, well, I think that they are in syllable juncture because they did well on these words. And adults, sometimes they have memorized some words, right? So they might fool you more than a kid, and they have learned to spell these words. And then you think they're here, but then they just bomb that test. Like they don't get anything right or hardly anything right. So go back, use your judgment, go back and say, I really think that they need to take this test. Okay. So that is the screening. Okay, so here is an example of a student. I screened this person. They fell out immediately at the letter name stage, right? They only got one right. Okay, so I gave them the 25 word list at the letter name stage. And you can see they got some things right, but they were having trouble with short I versus short E a lot. Okay, J, G, they don't have that DR yet down. They don't have that ending blend of the MP here, or the blend in plan, or the blend in grab. Feed fed, they just aren't real solid with their short vowels, long vowels, which we wouldn't expect at this stage. Again, a blend missing here. So now you can take this, and I'll show you how you can take this, and you're going to have a chance to look at some student work and use AI to help you. Okay, so we are just going to focus on letter name and within word pattern today. If we have time, we might be able to get into syllable juncture stage, but we're going to focus on these two stages. Okay, excuse me. So here is the, so I figure out their letter name. I give them the 25 word list. This is DSA Form A. There is, by the way, a Form B, so you could diagnose, say, after a year, after 6 months, and see where they're at. And this is the technical stuff about like what are the features at letter name stage. Okay, it's technical, and it's frankly, you know, not terribly important that you understand all this stuff. Um, let's look at this. Okay, so here is your, again, here's the 25 word list you've given to a student, and here is the student's answers. Okay, and just as a note here, when you are diagnosing a student, you should have your diagnostic cap on. You are not a teacher when you're diagnosing. You don't help them. You don't sound it out. You just ask them to write the sounds that they hear. And it's better to write, you know, even if they know it's wrong, it's more helpful if they write as much as they can down. You will get a lot of information if you see that they're confusing things and they know it's not right, but for you it's going to help you help them. And you read at a normal pace like this: jet. The jet made a safe landing. Jet. Okay? Ship. The ship sailed across the water. Ship. You're not a teacher at this point. You have your diagnostic hat on, so you don't want to help them. You just ask them to do the best they can. If you are a remote teacher, you can ask them, you know, once you screen them and locate them, you can actually ask them to read it to you, what they've spelled. If you're in person, you can start to group students within your, if you have a large class, you can start to group students and then diagnose them at the level that you think that group is at. I teach remotely, so I have to ask students to take a photo of the 25 words. Once we figure out where they're at, then and I've done this over the phone, where they've taken then a photo with their phone and texted me a photo of their spelling assessment. And I do ask them to write in their best handwriting. All right, so Elizabeth, I think it's time for a breakout room now. So what we're going to ask you to do is you're going to have 10 minutes, and you are going to get this page here. And what you're going to do is you're going to check the work. So you're going to see where are they making some errors, like ship, shep. Okay, so you see an error there. And you can go, if you want to get technical, you can go here and see what features are they missing. Okay, so say D, affricates. Okay, so you say, well, what's an affricate? Okay, but D is here, D is here, D is here, D, D. So maybe you can figure out what an affricate is by looking at what the word is. You can look it up, but again, AI will help you figure all of this out. And if you wanted to, you could even write how many they got wrong. Uh, you could do that, how many they got wrong at each feature, but all of that is a lot more than I do. I just give them the test, I see what they got wrong, and I plug it into AI. So let's do 10 minutes. I'd like you to look at the mistakes that have been made here on this assessment. Any questions? So again, the leader will be whoever's name is first in the alphabet. Okay, so everybody's back now. So we do have some time to discuss. So we're really doing well on our time. And if you'd like to unmute and talk to us, what are some of the mistakes that you noticed? Or you see some patterns happening with this student here?
Short vowels and consonant clusters.
Short vowels, like what are some of the short vowel problems for sure?
I, ah,
So here, let's just take a look at number 2. So you have the versus I. So they're confusing that. And when you think about it, they sound very close. It's it's very close.
Think
Here's
about pen and pen.
yeah, I know, exactly. And yeah, and that is just another point that when you are teaching this sort of thing in phonics, you have to remember they're oddballs. And some people where I live, they say, this is a writing pin, right? This, you write with a pin. And I'm not, we're not here to change how people speak, right? It's just that would be an oddball. It doesn't have that regular sound. So when you're doing sorts, you can create oddballs because we're not trying to force, a certain accent, out of people or onto people. All right, here we've got eh. Here's just way off, right? Here's the Let's just move to this one here. Now, that is a more salient difference, right? Meaning you can hear that difference a lot more easier than the eh. So that would be maybe better to start here than going to the eh. All right, you said also like the blends. So we're seeing a lot of problems with blends. The GR is missing, the R is missing. They're not hearing the R. The ending blend, the beginning blend there. Here's an ending blend. So you are seeing that. So you may decide you want to stay away from blends at first and then introduce those, fairly soon, but maybe at first you want to stay away from those. Other things that you're seeing. Thank you for that. Anybody else want to unmute and tell me, what are you seeing here? What are some patterns? Did anybody figure out what an affricate is?
If I ask you that, I don't understand.
What?
Who's an advocate?
What is an affricate? Did anybody figure out what that is? So you've got jet. That's got one. Drum. Okay. Much. Chop. Trip. Okay. So an affricate is that tr there. It's it's a fast sound that comes out of your mouth. It's a choppy sound. Tr. That's an affricate. Chop. It can be hard to hear. J. It's a breathy sound. There's a lot more breath in an affricate than the other sounds. Okay, so that's what an affricate is. You don't need to know that to teach phonics. You don't need to know all that.
I think of it as a sound that has a friction to it. So like it's a
Mhm.
friction.
There is some of that, and there's a lot of breath when you say that. All right, I like the way that you describe that. So other observations here. Other observations. All right, where would you start? What would you do? So that's what you need to think. What am I going to do to start? It's not like in order. You need to figure out where you're going to start. So let's do that. Okay, we are going to start with the easiest, and then we're going to work more difficult things. Let me figure out how to erase all this stuff here. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so I took when they misspelled, wait a second, sorry. All right, they did not spell rub, right? It's supposed to be rub, and they spelled it rob. Okay, so I'm going to start with that. So this is the prompt that I asked ChatGPT to do. So I asked ChatGPT to give you a words their way sort for, and then you provide the spelling error. So here's the prompt. Give me a words their way sort for this spelling error. Rob for rub. Give me at least 10 words per category. Do not use rare or borrowed words. Use a bold-faced keyword that corresponds to the targeted pattern and sound. Do not use digraphs or blends. So you have to decide whether you want to use all of this prompt. Maybe you do want digraphs or blends. So that's really up to where the student is at, or your group of students, okay? So this is what I got. It gave me a lovely explanation about what is happening with this student, and it gave me category 1, short U words, and category 2, short O words. So it figured out what was happening, and it gave me 2 categories. So then I took those and I put them into a template that you can get, by the way, on that link to Kathy Gansky's page there, that publisher page. So this template is cards. So I put the keywords in bold at the top, and then I put in the words out of order. So then this can be cut up and then sorted. And there's a lot of different activities you can do with this. They sort, they say the words, they read them again. You could do a blind sort where after they've sorted them and understood the sounds, you can do a blind sort, which is where you read the word and they have to listen and spell them. So they can't see the words anymore. They are then sorting them by sound. So that's just that is basically what Words Their Way does, is ask students to sort words. So there you have like a very nice basic activity. Can you do this online where they can't hold or manipulate cards? You could say, I want you to write Rob and rub at the top of your page and put these words under the right category. And they can see the pattern, right? The O. So it's going to be easy, but then you're going to ask them to read those words. Read them again, read them back, read them from the top to the bottom, bottom to the top after they've sorted them. And then you can start to do all kinds of creative things, make sentences and so forth. You can ask AI to help you make sentences with those words. So another prompt I did was give me 2 highly effective activities to use with adult students learning these words. And I like that prompt when you put highly effective. Okay, so these were the results I got. Just the sound sorting, so hands-on sorting, which I just described. Then this idea of minimal pairs, which is when the words only differ by one sound. So in Rob, rub, it differs by only that vowel sound. So then you have a minimal pair list here, and they tell you how to do this. But what I don't like is that AI did not give me some minimal pairs to work on, right? I need a list. So this is where you always, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to produce like the perfect result. So you just say, give me a list of minimal pairs. I need 10 pairs. So then it will create those for you. You don't have to do that work. So that's one point I really want to hit home, is that when you get into chat, you may have to do some revision. You probably will as you're looking at it. But that was pretty cool. It gave me some highly effective activities right there. Okay, so then I could say, well, okay, so that's words their way. That's a lot of sorting and analytic phonics, comparing, which is great. But I have a student who needs a synthetic approach, or I would like to try a synthetic approach. So you put in this prompt: a student spells Rob for rub on a developmental spelling analysis. You are a reading specialist at an adult learning center. What activities would you provide that would include synthetic phonics? Okay, and remember, synthetic phonics is where the words, the letters, the sounds are isolated and then blended together. So your student is synthesizing the sounds. Okay, so these are the results that I got for that. And it talks about these sound boxes and how to do those, blending them, breaking words apart, putting them back together again. Again, the minimal pairs came up, and it gave me a little bit better information here, like rub, rob, hug, hog, dug, dog. So only one thing is changing. So it gives you all the directions on how to do this activity. Another activity here, where you're taking letter tiles, magnetic letters. There's a lot of activities here. Some dictation practice here. So you can look at this and say, oh yeah, I'd like to try this. This would work with this student. I'd like to try this. So that's from that, that particular prompt there. All right, let's see. All right, you can even do a worksheet prompt. And I was creating a worksheet last week for a student based on her spelling assessment. And I kept revising it. Sometimes AI will work well, and some days, it isn't working quite as well. So I kept on writing and writing and writing, and I got this prompt down. So I said, create a worksheet that has 4 activities using the same sound and patterns. And that's assuming that I've already put in the error and I'm just adding another thing in chat, right? I'm in the same chat. I'm just adding another prompt here. The first activity should be a listen and sort table for sorting the mixed word list under headers with the sound and a keyword in bold. Put the columns side by side instead of vertically. So all categories and the word list can be seen at the same time. Do not use dictionary symbols. Do not include a word search. Use minimal pairs. Fill in the blank. Correct the misspelling. Do not use the term contrast group. And that seemed to get me what I wanted on that day. And then I requested a worksheet. And a few months ago, I could get a downloadable PDF, no problem. Now it's giving me a file error. It depends upon maybe what AI you're using. In ChatGPT, it's not giving me the downloadable PDFs, which it was a couple months ago. So I'm just copying and pasting. It gives me a worksheet, but it's just giving me a file error and not letting me download it, but that's okay. It's still giving me some good stuff that I can just copy and paste and make a worksheet. So I don't have the results for this right now, but you are welcome to steal these prompts and see what you can come up with. All right, let's move on to within word stage. So we were looking at letter name stage. Now we're going to look at within word pattern stage. So this is when they're moving beyond the basic letter sound correspondences. They're looking at long vowel markers, vowel teams, the R-controlled vowels. So this is what's happening as far as the features in this assessment here. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go into a breakout room and you're going to analyze what you've got here with your group. And if one of you, or if any of you feel like opening up an AI program, ChatGPT, for example, maybe you've got it handy or something else, try to put in put in an error, and I recommend doing one error. I tried putting in like 5 errors, like they didn't, they spelled this for patch. They spelled steep for step. They spelled bridge this way instead of like, the correct way. So I put in a bunch of errors and it just overloaded and it didn't do any good at all. So I recommend just putting in one error into AI and seeing what it comes up with. And I know you don't have access to this presentation now to steal the prompts, but write a prompt. Just say you are a reading specialist and you are going to create a words their way sort based on this student error. Create at least 2 categories of words, something like that. So see if you can create a prompt and see if you come up with something, if you're able to do that. All right, so we are ready now to do groups again.
Ask a
Elizabeth?
question more.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do we have to register for a chat GPT or did you just Google it or I've never been on it. So
You have to put in your email.
okay.
So that's it. You put in an email and then you are able to use it for free. And you can use like a certain, there's a higher level chat GPT that you can use for a certain amount of prompts per day. Otherwise, they're going to, if you want all the good stuff, you have to pay. Don't do that. Do not pay
Okay.
for it.
All right.
don't-
Yeah, I've just never been on it, but I appreciate you telling us about it.
Sure.
And I dropped the link to the document in the chat, and then just below that, Haley dropped a link that'll take you to ChatGPT if you haven't been on it and you want to explore that. So I'm going to open up the rooms now.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks. You're gonna hit. All right, so welcome back, everybody. So unmute and talk to me. What are some of the issues with this student?
They have trouble with abstract vowels
Mm-hmm.
and complex consonants.
Where was that one? Well, that was,
Complex consonants was the first one, patch.
yep. They did get the SCR right there, but they did not get that TCH, right? What
Right.
else? What else do you see? What are they doing with steep?
Making long vowel sounds with that, they were having trouble with that.
Yeah, really overdoing it with the
Over,
long.
yeah. Mhm.
Um,
And then number 9, the blended sound, where to put the R. The
yeah,
R.
yeah, the R controlled vowel is backwards there.
Yeah.
Did you ever get anything back, Sharon? We got interrupted toward the end.
But what I had asked for was, about vowel sounds, and it gave me the diphthongs, the OI sound like coin and
So it gave you
like that.
something back.
It gave me some examples. Yeah, it was good.
Okay. Okay, so that's good. So you decided to try out ChatGPT and you
I
got
went
the
in, yeah.
results. Okay.
You know what I was asking? That was the hard part.
Ah, gotcha. How to ask it. And
I gotta practice with that.
and I have some prompts in this presentation that you can just copy and paste.
Yeah,
This is
but
one,
I didn't.
yeah, and you didn't have access to that, so you
Yeah.
had to make it up on your own.
Yeah, so,
Um,
but I was proud that I got something back.
yeah, exactly. Good, Sharon. Quite. I very rarely have a student that spells quite correctly. Oftentimes they spell quiet. Um, so that's one I see very often with my students that they don't get right. Anybody else try chat?
You're soundless.
I am. Hey, Elizabeth,
You
can
went
you?
mute on us, Laura.
No, I'm not muted. Hey,
I can hear you.
Okay,
okay. All right.
you're back.
We were muted. I
Okay.
got a message that said that the host muted us. We
Oh.
tried give
Oh.
me an activity of words which will help a student discriminate between complex vowel patterns.
Okay.
And it came up with a relay race where you have to the students are given a number of index cards with words, and then they have to put them under the right category on a chart.
Okay. All right. Were you happy with that?
Relatively, yes. I preferred, we had another one asking for another pattern. What was it? It was complex. I don't know what it was. I don't remember because I didn't write it down. And it gave me a bingo thing, which I thought would be quite handy.
I think it was abstract vowels, Miss Betts. Was that the one?
Maybe it was.
I think it
Yes,
was
it was.
yeah, abstract vowels, and it was the bingo game.
Okay. All right. So, it sounds like you had some fun with that. I would, when you're working with students, go with them, put into chat the actual mistake, like they spelled
Okay.
PACH for PATCH. Um, and go from there, because when you add like too much at one time, like just all abstract vowels, that can be too much. So you
Okay.
want to be a little more focused with your prompt. When you're going back to review, then you can widen the categories there. But starting out, I would really focus on, they wrote this for this. Give me some highly effective activities that would help this student. And I'm going to show you exactly what I got when I put this in, this error right here. But did anybody else have some luck? I'm so glad that you tried ChatGPT out. Did anybody else have any luck with that? All right, let's go ahead and keep going. Let me erase all this. I just think it's just really cool what you can do, but make sure you're watching and vetting what chat will spit out. You have to vet it and say, well, wait a second here. That's too hard, or that doesn't make sense right there. What you're saying doesn't make sense. You do have to tweak often and just keep on tweaking it. Say, give me 10 more, or don't use rare words, for example, or take out the digraphs if you need to, or make it more difficult. Add blends, whatever it is that you really want, and it will automatically, very quickly do that for you. So this is what I did with that. I said, give me a words their way sort for this spelling error, patch for patch. Give me at least 10 words per category. Okay, and then again, you may have to ask for revisions to get the results you were looking for, but this is what I got. Okay, it gave me category 1 with TCH, category 1 with CH words, and then it gave me category 3 with SH words, and I was like, that is actually brilliant. I hadn't thought about that, but a student may be familiar with SH more than they are with CH, but go ahead and put that in, then they have something that they know, but they're contrasting it with things that they don't know or they're not quite straight on. So for this particular student, I thought, I'm leaving that in. That is brilliant. That's going to help them even more. Usually the rule of thumb is like, don't go over 4 categories. That's too much. Unless you're doing like a review, a big review. But I left it like that. I liked that one. And then, obviously look through the words and say, are these words that we would use every day? Yeah, sometimes we might have to teach some vocabulary, but it should be like a common word that that we would use, your student would use and need. So then you can just handwrite it if you want to. So you got your headers at the top, you've got your keywords in bold, and then you have your mixed up words here. So you could do it like that. You don't have to type it out. It doesn't have to be so formal. Okay, so bam, you've got a project done. You can, an activity, you can use that. All right, so I'm going to very quickly go through syllable juncture. So syllable juncture stage is when you are getting to those syllables. So you have the syllable rules. You've got the things that are happening when you're adding suffixes, the doubling. You've got the consonant vowel consonant E here. You've got a closed syllable here, S, so that's a short vowel. So you've got your LE here. You've got examples of different syllable types. So you can look at this, you can assess it, you can see what they need, throw it into ChatGPT. So here's an example of a student who is at this stage. So you can see they're not dropping the E when they write piling. What else are they messing up? So they are doubling there when they add ED. There's a lot of stuff going on here and explode. A lot of mistakes here. They're dropping the E there. They didn't double here, so they're not always doubling like they did here, but they didn't double here. So you can, take this, write the correct spelling, analyze it, throw in an error into ChatGPT. This is your syllable juncture stage, and it gets more complicated. I think this is more difficult as a reading teacher to kind of understand what this stuff is about, and especially, when you get to unstressed syllables. So I did link here an explanation of what that means. But again, don't try to understand it all. Let ChatGPT help you with it, okay? So this is what I did. I said, give me a words their way sort for this spelling error. Piling for piling. Give me at least 10 words per category. So I got this, okay? So here, the E is dropped, okay? So when adding ing, you drop the E on these. All right, here it said keep the base word. No final E drop. But then I'm like, running, sitting, getting, hitting, swimming, planning, jumping. Yeah, there's no E drop, but ChatGPT forgot about the doubling rule. So this is where, you do need to vet what's happening here. And I said you forgot to mention doubling. So it redid it. It said, oh yeah, you're right. I forgot the doubling. So it redid it. It has your E drop here. The doubling preserves that short vowel, by the way. Okay, and then the do nothing, just add ing. So that helped with that. And then I said, can you create a downloadable worksheet? Focus on the sounds. So this is the worksheet. This is when it was working great and did give me PDFs that I could download. Beautiful with a table and words to sort on that table. So I was real happy when it was doing that. I hope it comes back and will let me download worksheets. And I hope it will for you. All right, let's see. Let me go back to full screen. And then I just sent another one that is different and engaging. You can do that. So then it was like, okay, circle the words that drop the final E, underline the words that double the final consonant when adding ing, and then draw a box around the words that keep the base word unchanged. So a little bit more engaging rather than just sorting. And then write 2 example sentences. So that's a little bit better. All right, so why use this system of the developmental spelling assessment? Analysis. DSA is developmental spelling analysis plus artificial intelligence. Well, it's easy to get started and cheap, and you get immediate and long-term benefits for student reading outcomes. How can you do that? I just want to repeat what I said. If you have a large group that's all multi-level, you can do the locator, split them into groups, give them give them the 25 words at the stage you think they are, and then you can start to see, well, what are some of the similarities? Okay, so you're not individualizing as much as if you were doing one-on-one tutoring, but you can start to see, well, this group overall needs some work with their, O versus U, short vowel O and U. So you can start to create activities for that whole group. So you can split them up into like what stage they're in. So that's one way of working with a large heterogeneous group. All right, there are lots more resources for teaching alphabetics. I want to show you this. This is from Atlas Abe. They have a free library of slide decks for syllable, juncture, and derivational relations stages, or derivational constancy, whatever you want to call it. But it is wonderful. All of these slide decks ready to go right there. There's a lot in there. I've used these, but I don't do everything in one lesson. There's so much in each slide deck. Let's see, let me get back here. All right, let's see. That's Atlas Abe. The other thing is morpheme matrices. A morpheme is a word part that has meaning. Okay, so mit or miss, the origin of that going back to Greek or Latin, maybe some of you know, I don't know whether it's Greek or Latin, but mit or miss means to send. Okay, and going back that direction, a Greek and Latin root, it is bound, meaning it's bound to its prefixes or suffixes. Okay, so it doesn't stand alone. It's not a free word. Even though you think miss is a word all by itself, that's not the miss we're talking about. We're talking about this Greek or Latin root miss. So that's what it says here, bound. It doesn't say free. It can't stand by itself. Like form. Form is a Greek or Latin root that can stand by itself, like information, that form does stand alone. So it would say free down here. So you ask your students, you know, if they're at this stage, and I use syllable juncture and derivational relations. I use this. I say, okay, make as many words as you can using these prefixes and suffixes. And I demonstrate and let them, give them some time to make as many words as they can. I say, okay, when you're done getting as many words as you can, please write a sentence using one of the words. And then I have them in the answers at the back of this document. There are answers, as you know, these are the words that can be made from this grouping here, these morphemes. And then I have students read the word list. I, you know, have a volunteer read the word list, and it's so empowering. They love it because these words at one point were big words that would be intimidating, but because they've been breaking them down, they are able to read these words, and it's just it's a lot of fun. They are empowered by doing this, and I take it to ChatGPT. I take that list. And I say create 10 sentences using these words where the theme is anger management. So I throw in workplace readiness skill, and then I say what grade level the sentences need to be. So I just copy and paste, I put those words in, and I get sentences. So here's AI created sentences. When you feel angry, it's important to submit to calming techniques like taking deep breaths. If you transmit your frustration to others without thinking, it can hurt their feelings. So on, you can get pages and pages of sentences. And I have my students read these sentences. So there, you have to remember the skill has to be transferred to reading, right? You're not just teaching alphabetics in isolation. I mean, there is a time and a place for that, but I like to get it right into context as soon as possible. All right, another site is Project Read. Let's just take a look at this. A lot of these have free stuff for a while, and then you have to pay, right? So you get started for free, but then you have to pay. So I'm just going to go with this, whatever the scope and sequence is that they've got here, UFLI, and then the AAA sort or whatever. So this element is going to be in this story. So, oh, I need to sign in. Hold on. Wait a second. Let me sign in. All right, let's see. Let me try this again. All right, hold on. Let me see. All right, let's go to this decodable generator. There's other stuff here, but I'm going to go back to just creating a decodable story. So I'm going to generate this story. I can customize it, but then it has this story. It has been a long weekend, and Javon could not wait for Friday. He was going on a trip, not just any trip. Javon was going on his birthday sailboat trip. So this has that AI or that AY, long A words in it. And just so you know, and you probably know this already, spelling is usually worse than their reading. Okay, so you might say, well, wait a second, this looks like a lot of hard words, but you'd be surprised, or maybe you're not surprised. Students, we all can read better than we can spell. So so a student like this probably at this stage probably would be able to read. You're emphasizing that long A sound there. But use your judgment. You would have to use your judgment, but that would be a within word pattern. So I feel like they could read that. And there's lots of other stuff in Project Read. Here is citizen literacy. This comes out of Scotland, and it goes down to, letter sounds, very much synthetic phonics at first. Now, I will tell you, it is amazing, but the Scots don't use the same, they don't say the long A like we do. So there's going to be a little bit of difference in there.
Lesson 1, homepage.
I don't know if you can hear that. Let's see. I don't know if you can hear that. I'm just turning on the sound, but all right. So,
ah,
we say ah.
ah,
Scots say ah.
s, p, I, n,
Okay.
ah.
So,
Correct. Tap the speaker to listen to the next sound.
I.
all right.
Brilliant.
So forth and so on.
Tap the speaker again for the next sound.
All right. I'm going to stop that. Let me X that out. So that's citizen literacy. It's pretty amazing, actually. All right. Diffit. This I have used recently. So you can enter a topic, theme, or question. I had a student that his question was, do stars move? Okay, do stars move? So I've said, okay, I want that, and I want it at a 5th grade reading level. And then I generate resources. And again, this is free partially, but then it has its paid stuff that you can upgrade to. So it has some nice pictures. You can change the picture around. It has this reading passage. You can adjust the length. And then it has summary, vocabulary words, a bunch of great stuff below, vocabulary, multiple choice questions. I bet these, they can be, sorry, we've got a lot of evening classes and they're popping up here. You need to vet this because there might be something in here that doesn't quite make sense. So make sure you vet it, read through, make sure that the questions are answerable. But you can get like claim evidence, reasons, a short answer workbook, some other stuff here, bubble maps, summary. There's just a ton of stuff here. You can even align it to standards, print it. You can change the grade level, just a lot of very cool stuff there. That's Diffit. And then, so how much time do we have? Oh, we are over. Hey, Elizabeth.
Yeah. I
So
know there's so many good resources and I know people are hanging on, but I know people also need to go. There will be a recording. So if you do need to hop off, that's fine. I'm gonna I'll put the feedback form in the chat right now. If you have a moment and you want to open it up now, that's fine. But I'm also going to send that in an email along with the certificates. You'll definitely get all that stuff by the end of the week. So just, bear with us. All right, Maura, you can take it away again to close out.
okay, so just, it's, with all of this information, it's going to be easy to adopt, doesn't take much time. A teacher-led phonics session, it can be 5 or 15 minutes. If you did that every day, you would definitely see some improvement with your students. So that's just a lesson plan. But anyway, so I'm done. Thank you all. I'm going to stop my share.
Yeah, thank you all so much for joining us today, and for hanging on for those last few moments. Hopefully you found something that you'll be able to take and use in your classroom. Again, I know there was lots of resources and lots of good AI prompts. You will get the PDF to these slides, so you'll have all that stuff to be able to use. And yeah, let us know how it goes and please fill out the feedback form. And stay tuned for more webinars coming out of Valric and have a good evening.